Our logic for fetching blog posts is complete, but we're missing one crucial piece here. We need to actually call the action creator to fetch the list of data. There's nowhere in our app right now that's actually going to invoke that action creator and start the data fetching process. In this section, we're going to learn how to fetch our data. Now, figuring out how and when to fetch data in a Redux app is actually kind of deceptively complicated. So to tackle this topic, we're going to go ahead and talk about what we did in the past for fetching data in our weather application, and then talk about a couple different approaches that we could take this time around. So first, I'm going to pull up a diagram of how we fetched our data in the weather app. In the weather application, a user would type in some input here at the top. So they'd type in, say, like San Francisco as the city, and then they would click the search button. In response, we called an action creator, which returned an action, and that action went through our middlewares, our reducers, etc., and then our data flowed back into the app right here. So the point is, whenever a user clicked the button, we had a very distinct event, a very distinct time in our application where we knew that, okay, right now at this instant, this is when we need to call our action creator. Let's juxtapose that with a separate diagram of our blog post application that we're about to make here. So this time around, we don't really have the benefit of a simple click event to know when to call the action creator. The place to call the action creator is really a lot more ambiguous. All we know is that when we're navigating to the post index component, that's probably a good time to fetch our data. We need to show some data on the page. That's the time that we need to call that. And once we call that action creator, then we're going to go ahead and, same process again. Action flows through the middleware, the reducers, blah, 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 and new data flows into our state. But the real question here is, we need to fetch data whenever that URL changes. So to handle this, we're going to make use of what's called a React Lifecycle method. A lifecycle method is a function on a React component class that is automatically called by React. There are several different lifecycle methods, but the one that we're going to work with is called component will mount. Let's put together the implementation for this, and then we'll go ahead and talk about what it is, what it's doing for us. So back in our project, I'm going to open up our post index file. So right now this is just a functional component. Let's go ahead and first refactor it to be a component class. So at the top, we'll pull off our component like so, and then we'll replace this. Let's just go ahead and delete all of it just so we can start from scratch. And we'll do class post index extends component. We'll put in our render method and return div list of blog posts, and then at the bottom export default posts index. Okay, so just a refactor from a functional component to a class-based component. Now the next thing we're going to do is we're going to define a lifecycle method on here called component will mount. This is the one that we were just talking about this. So we'll define this method on the post index class. So we'll say component will mount, and for right now we'll say console log. This would be a good time to call an action creator, and we'll just say to fetch posts, like so. Okay, let's go ahead and save this, and I'm going to open up my browser here. Make sure we got our console nice and big, and then refresh. And so we see this would be a good time to call an action creator to fetch posts. Okay, so you see the console log pop up. What happened here? Again, component will mount is a lifecycle method. If we define a method specifically called component will mount, React will call this automatically whenever our component is about to be rendered to the DOM for the first time. It will not be called on subsequent re-renders though. So because it's only called once, this would be a great place to place our action creator to go and fetch our data. So again, the point here is that in our previous application, there was a very easy location to decide where to fetch our data. This time around, it's a little bit more ambiguous. We don't really know where the best place to put our data fetching process, where to kick that off from. And so for this application, we're going to say, whenever our post index component is about to mount, please go and fetch our data for us. Okay, let's go ahead and in the next section, we'll replace the console log here with our action creator. I'll see you there.